What if everything you thought you knew about yourself was an illusion? This is the phenomenon of ego death, challenging our understanding of self. The ego is the voice in our heads, telling us who we are and what we want. It's the stream of thoughts we identify with. From a young age, we are conditioned to identify with this ego. But what if there's more to us than this constructed ego? What if true freedom lays beyond our self-imposed limitations? This is where ego death comes in. Transcending our limited sense of self. Recognizing we are not our thoughts, but something greater. The idea of ego death can be daunting, even terrifying to some. It conjures images of losing oneself entirely, of becoming nothing. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what ego death truly entails. It is not about annihilation, but rather a transformation, a shift in perspective from the limited ego self to a more expansive and integrated sense of being. Imagine a drop of water merging into the vast ocean. It doesn't cease to exist. It simply becomes one with a larger reality. Similarly, ego death is about recognizing our interrelation with all things, a merging with the universal intelligence that transcends our individual identities. This shift in perspective can be liberating, freeing us from the constant chatter of the ego and allowing us to experience life with greater clarity, peace, and joy. The journey of ego death is not for the faint of heart. It is a process of deep introspection, of facing our deepest fears and insecurities. Throughout history, mystics, spiritual seekers, and philosophers have explored the depths of human awareness, seeking to transcend the ego and experience this state of oneness. From ancient meditation practices to modern-day therapeutic approaches, there are countless paths that lead to this transformative experience. Prepare to challenge your perceptions and embark on a journey of self-discovery as we unravel the most shocking truth about ego death. The term ego death itself can be misleading, conjuring images of a morbid and final event. Ego death is not about physical death or the annihilation of one's being. Instead, it signifies a metaphorical death, a shedding of the limited and illusory self-identity that we have constructed over a lifetime. Imagine a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The caterpillar doesn't cease to exist. It undergoes a radical metamorphosis, emerging as a more beautiful and liberated version of itself. Similarly, ego death is a process of profound transformation, a shedding of the old to make way for the new. It's about breaking free from the confines of our self-imposed limitations and embracing a more expansive way of being. This misunderstanding often stems from our deep-seated fear of the unknown. Fear and resistance, a natural response. The ego, by its very nature, resists its own demise. It has spent a lifetime building walls of protection, creating a sense of separation from the world around us. Ego death threatens this carefully constructed identity, making us feel vulnerable and exposed. This fear is further amplified by our societal conditioning. We live in a world that glorifies the individual, encouraging us to strive for success, recognition, and material possessions. Our identities are often intertwined with our achievements, our social status, and our roles in society. The thought of letting go of these external validations can be terrifying, leaving us feeling lost and insignificant. However, it's important to remember that this fear is an illusion, a product of our conditioned minds. Distorted perceptions and cultural conditioning. Our culture often reinforces these fears, portraying ego death as a descent into madness or a loss of individuality. Movies and literature often depict characters who undergo profound spiritual experiences as unstable or detached from reality. This negative portrayal creates a distorted perception of ego death, making it seem like something to be avoided at all costs. Furthermore, our education system primarily focuses on developing the rational mind, neglecting the exploration of infinite intelligence and the inner world. We are taught to value logic, reason, and external achievements over introspection, intuition, and spiritual growth. This imbalance creates a separation from our true nature, making it challenging to even comprehend the possibility of transcending the limitations of the ego. To embrace the transformative potential of ego death, we need to challenge these limiting beliefs and societal norms. The ego's defense mechanisms. The ego is a master of disguise, employing various defense mechanisms to protect itself from the perceived threat of annihilation. It will rationalize, deny, and project its fears onto others, all in an attempt to maintain its grip on reality. One of the most common defenses is intellectualization, where the ego tries to understand ego death through a purely intellectual lens, dissecting it as an abstract concept without ever truly comprehending its emotional and spiritual implications. Another defense mechanism is projection, where the ego projects its own fear of death onto others, judging or criticizing those who have experienced or are seeking ego death. Recognizing these defense mechanisms is crucial for navigating the path of ego death. By becoming aware of the ego's tactics, we can begin to dismantle its defenses and create space for genuine transformation. Glimpses of transcendence. Exploring the paths to ego death. The pursuit of ego death is a timeless yearning woven into human existence. Across cultures, individuals seek to transcend the ego and experience unity. From ancient practices to modern counseling, paths to ego death are diverse. Some find solace in meditation, revealing pure awareness. Others use psychedelics, guided by experienced practitioners. These paths share a common thread: surrendering control and embracing the unknown. Meditation. Quieting the mind. Unveiling the true self. In the bustling modern world, our minds are constantly bombarded with stimuli. A relentless stream of thoughts, worries, and desires. Meditation offers a sanctuary, a space to step back from this mental chaos and cultivate a state of inner stillness. This practice, rooted in ancient traditions, is not about emptying the mind, but rather about observing thoughts without judgment, becoming aware of the space between them. As we sit in meditation, focusing on the breath or a mantra, the ego's grip on our awareness begins to loosen. Thoughts arise, like waves on the ocean surface, but instead of being swept away by them, we learn to observe them with detachment. Through frequent practice, meditation gradually dissolves the boundaries between the observer and the observed, revealing the integration of all things. Psychedelics, a controversial gateway to altered states. Psychedelic substances, often referred to as entheogens, have been used for centuries in spiritual circles. These substances, including psilocybin mushrooms and ayahuasca, can induce profound alterations in awareness. The use of psychedelics for personal growth remains a topic of intense debate. Proponents emphasize careful preparation, appropriate environments, and facilitator support. In appropriate environments, these substances can catalyze profound mystical experiences. Responsible use requires thorough research and careful regard of personal history. Intense introspection, facing the shadows within. Sometimes life itself becomes the catalyst for ego death. Profound experiences, both positive and negative, can shake us to our core, forcing us to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world around us. These experiences can range from near-death experiences and spiritual awakenings to intense grief, trauma, or periods of deep existential crisis, when tackled by the fragility of life or the depths of human suffering. The ego's defenses can crumble, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath. By facing our shadows, the parts of ourselves we've denied or repressed, we begin to dismantle the illusion of separation and embrace the totality of our being. This process of integration can be painful, but it's ultimately a journey towards wholeness and authenticity. The emotional roller coaster. Navigating the depths of ego death. The journey of ego death is rarely linear or predictable. It's often described as an emotional roller coaster, characterized by periods of profound bliss and unification, interspersed with moments of fear, confusion, and despair. As the ego's grip loosens, we may experience a range of intense emotions, from euphoria and boundless love to existential angst and the fear of annihilation. Seeking support from counselors, spiritual guides, or trusted individuals who have undergone similar experiences can provide invaluable guidance and reassurance during challenging times. It's about learning to ride the waves of experience with greater awareness, acceptance, and equanimity, recognizing that all emotions, even the most challenging ones, are temporary and ultimately impermanent. The paradox of liberation, embracing nothingness to find everything. This brings us to the crux of the matter, the most shocking truth about ego death. It's not about achieving a state of blissful enlightenment or becoming some superior being. The most shocking truth about ego death is that it's about embracing nothingness. Now, before your mind imagines a dark void or a meaningless existence, let's be clear. This nothingness isn't an empty abyss. It's the revelation that the self you've so tightly clung to, the one defined by thoughts, memories, and desires, is an illusion. It's like waking up from a dream, realizing the characters and narratives were mere projections of your mind. In letting go of this illusory self, in surrendering to this nothingness, you discover the true nature of reality. Beyond individuality, the illusion of separation shattered. The ego thrives on separation. It creates boundaries between me and you, us and them, fostering a sense of isolation and fueling conflict. But as the ego dissolves, these boundaries crumble, revealing the interdependence of all things. Suddenly, the labels that once defined us, race, religion, nationality, lose their significance. We begin to see the humanity and divinity in everyone, recognizing that beneath the surface differences, we're all united by the same shared experience of being alive. This is the profound shift in perspective that ego death offers, a world where separation is no longer a given, but a choice. The birth of compassion, seeing through the eyes of unity. With the illusion of separation shattered, something remarkable happens. Compassion blossoms. When you no longer perceive yourself as an isolated individual, when you recognize the shared humanity and divinity in everyone, compassion becomes an inevitable result. This isn't about condoning harmful actions or becoming a doormat for others. It's about understanding that everyone is fighting their own internal battles, shaped by their unique experiences and conditioning. This isn't to say we should excuse harmful behavior, but rather approach it with understanding and a desire to alleviate suffering. It's a gradual process of unlearning old patterns of judgment and separation, of cultivating a more expansive and loving heart. Living from authenticity, the integration of ego death into everyday life. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but how do I integrate this into my everyday life? I still have to pay bills, deal with difficult people, and navigate the challenges of the world. And you're right. Ego death isn't about becoming some enlightened being who floats above the mundane realities of life. It's about bringing that expanded awareness, that sense of unity and compassion, into the everyday. It's about approaching every interaction, every situation with greater presence and awareness, recognizing the divinity in everyone you encounter, including yourself. It's about acting from a place of authenticity, no longer driven by the ego's need for validation or control. It's about living life with greater purpose and meaning, knowing that you're an integral part of something much larger than yourself. Ego death is not the annihilation of the self, but a shift in perspective on our true identity. The ego's need for validation and attachment to material possessions creates a false sense of self. This ego-driven identity traps us in cycles of craving and aversion, fueling separation and dissatisfaction. Ego death unveils a more authentic self, rooted in interconnectedness with all things. This true self is not bound by the ego's limitations and reunifies us with Source. The transformative power of ego death extends far beyond our individual experiences. Living from integrity and compassion, our actions ripple outwards, influencing our relationships, communities, and the world. Without the ego's need for competition, we gravitate towards collaboration, empathy, and input to the well-being of all. Imagine a world where compassion guides our actions, fostering unity, forgiveness, and social justice. Transformation begins at the individual level, enabling the collective awakening of divinity. The journey of ego death is a lifelong process of exploration and discovery. It's about questioning our assumptions and deepening our comprehension of ourselves. Embrace the unknown with courage and curiosity. Many paths lead to ego death, from meditation to psychedelics. Find what resonates and quiet the ego's chatter. This journey requires addressing our deepest fears. The rewards are immeasurable. We discover peace, joy, and elevation. We awaken to our own divinity, realizing we are part of the universal source. The journey of ego death is a deeply personal one, but it doesn't have to be a solitary one. We encourage you to share your thoughts, insights, and questions in the comments below. Have you experienced glimpses of ego death in your own life? What practices or experiences have helped you align with a deeper sense of self? For those eager to delve deeper into this transformative precept, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Click the bell notifications icon so you can travel with us as we explore other practical tips and practices for navigating the path of ego death. Together, let's embark on this journey of self-discovery and awaken to the boundless potential that exists within us all.